bit better. Still not amazing, but we are getting there. It is Erev Lag BaOmer, and we are up to Daf Daled Amud Aleph of Maseches Yoma, and we left off at the top of Daf Daled Amud Aleph with the machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, trying to understand where do we know the din of the Prisha of the Kohen Gadol. We have been learning up until now the opinion that Rabbi Yochanan has been championing, which is that we learn it from the days of Miluim. But Reish Lakish is of the opinion that that is incorrect, and that in fact we learn the Prisha of the Kohen Gadol from the days that Moshe Rabbeinu was told to separate before going up to Har Sinai. And on Daf Daled we are going to be discussing these two opinions. And the challenges between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, trying to figure out where we learn this din from. We left off at the very top of Daled Amud Aleph, where Rabbi Yochanan had challenged Reish Lakish, saying, according to you, there should only be 6 days of separation. And Reish Lakish said to him, yeah, but the Mishnah goes according to the opinion that holds that there was an additional day for that the Kohen Gadol is told to separate because of Tumas Ishtai, that the Kohen Gadol's wife might make him tummy as a result of Tumas Nida, and therefore he needs 7 days away from the house, even though the din mid'oraisa would only be 6 days. And then Rabbi Yochanan, third word at the top of the page, is going to challenge Reish Lakish as follows. Amalei Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish, says Rabbi Yochanan to Reish Lakish, Bishlam Ledidi, it makes good sense for me that I learned from the 7 days of Miluim of Aaron before he became the Kohen Gadol. This is why the Brisa tells us that both for the Paraduma, that both for Yom Kippur and for Paraduma, Mazin alav kol shiva, we sprinkle him for 7 days. Meaning you have to do azah. You sprinkle them with the waters of the Paraduma for all 7 days in order to make sure that he's tahor. Mikol chatos shayusham, and they would sprinkle him from a little bit of the ashes. They've mixed together all of the ashes of all of the paradumas that were made there. The Rambam counts that there were 9 paradumas ever made throughout history, and before they finished the next one, they would collect all of the ashes and they would have a separate container that, or all the ashes of all of the paradumas. This is based on the Mishnah, the beginning of the beginning of the third parak of Maseches Para, that all of the paradumas were mixed together and they would sprinkle from all of them for the Kohen Gadol, both for the Kohen that's making the paraduma and the Kohen that becomes the Kohen Gadol for Yom Kippur. Dahavanami hazah b'miluim, and there was also hazah b'miluim, meaning there's hazah for para, there's hazah for Yom Kippur, and there's hazah of the miluim. The Kohen was sprinkled all of the miluim. But for you learn from Har Sinai, hazah b'Sinai may have it. Hazah, there was no sprinkling when it came to Har Sinai. Moshe Rabbeinu was not told to be sprinkled with anything. There was nothing to sprinkle him with before Matan Torah. Amarle, so Reish Lakish says back to Rabbi Yochanan, according to you, does it still make sense? B'miluim dam hacha mayim. When it came to the miluim, the sprinkling was with blood. Meaning, Rashi points out here, miluim with dam was hazaz miluim shel dam kidichsiv. The pasuk tells you that they were sprinkled with blood. Hacha mayim here for Yom Kippur and Paraduma, it was mayim. It was the May Paraduma. It wasn't that the Kohanim was sprinkled with the blood of the Korbanos. Here they were sprinkled with mayim, with water of the Paraduma. Says Rabbi Yochanan, lekasha, that's not a challenge. The Tanya Rabbi Chia, because Rabbi Chia taught us, nichnasu mayim tachas dam. After the 8 days of Miluim, they made the first Paraduma, and that Paraduma was made on the 2nd day of Nisan of that year. And until that point in time, when somebody needed to be sprinkled, they were sprinkled with blood, as Aaron and his children were sprinkled with blood. But after they made the first paraduma, then that water replaced the blood. So that's what we say, nichnasu mayim tachas dam. Up until that point, there was sprinkling. The only sprinkling that they had was dam. Now there's mayim. Now after the inauguration of the Mishkan, now there is mayim instead of blood. But according to you, Reish Lakish, hazah b'Sinai may have it. There was no sprinkling at all by Har Sinai. How do you compare them? Amarle. So he says to Rabbi Yochanan, Male ba'alma. Now, the din that we sprinkle the Kohen Gadol is not the din deraisa. That's a din midrabanan. It's not that you need to compare the dinim deraisa. That's only a din derabanan. It's a maila. It's a chumra midrabanan that when you make the Kohen Gadol ready for para aduma, you sprinkle him with mei para aduma. And when you make the Kohen Gadol ready for Yom Kippur, you sprinkle him as well. But pashtus is that if he wasn't tamei, you don't need to do it. You wouldn't need to do it. It's a maila ba'alma. It's a chumra. It's a chumrah for the sake of Tumah and Tara and for Kachim. Says the Gemara, okay, both of them have their opinion. Do they have support? Tani Kavasa to Rabbi Yochanan and Tani Kavasa to Rish Lakish, both of them have a support. Each one has a brisa that supports them. And now we're going to learn the brises. Tani Kavasa to Rabbi Yochanan, the brisa agrees like Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan is supported by a brisa. The brisa says, Bezos Yavoy Aharon El HaKodesh. The beginning of Parshas Achramos. With this, Aaron is going to come to the Kodesh. What's the this? What is the this? What that which is said with regards to be'inyan with something else. Mahi, what's the other thing? Besides with this, be'inyan de miluim, just like the miluim, the same way the miluim are done. So too, you're going to have Yom Kippur. Ma amr be'inyan de miluim, and what's said by miluim? Aron pirush shiva v'shimish yom echad. Aaron separated himself for 7 days and then did the avodah for 1 day. And during that time, Moshe Rabbeinu would teach him kol shiva. All 7 days, Moshe Rabbeinu explained all the halachas to him so that he should be inaugurated into doing the mitzvahs. He has to be appropriately trained. Rashi says, lelamda. That's what chinuch is to educate. So to for all future generations, so to for all future generations, the Kohen Gadol has to separate himself for 7 days, and then he does the avodah for 1 day. That's called Yom Kippur. And the two Talmidei Chachamim that come from the students of Moshe Rabbeinu, that meaning that they have the authentic Masorah from Moshe Rabbeinu, that means la'afuki tzedakим, to disregard, to exclude the tzedukим that did not believe in the Torah Sheba'al Peh. And we'll see stories about the Tzedukim much later in the Nuns, what exactly the stories with the Tzedukim that did not agree to the Torah Sheba'al Peh. And these two Talmidei Chachamim, with the Masorah from Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe and Kol Shiva, they would explain the halachas of Yom Kippur to him for all 7 days, in order to train him to be able to do the avodah properly. Mikan Amra, and from here we learn Shivas Yom Kodim Yom Kippurim Afrishin Kohen Gadol Basal Lishkas Parhedrin. 7 days before Yom Kippur, you separate the Kohen Gadol for the to put him in the Lishkas Parhedrin. That's the din that the Mishnah describes. That is the support for Rabbi Yochanan. And then the brisa continues. The same way that you separate the Kohen Gadol for Yom Kippur, you separate the Kohen that's going to burn the paraduma. The lishka sha'al pnei abira, to the lishka that is across from the bira, which we saw machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish already. Whether that means the pile, the pyre that they burnt, the korbanos that were nifsalu, or it meant the whole thing is called the bira, ir habira. And where was this? Tzvayim Mizracha, in the northern eastern corner of the Azara. That's what it means. Okay. Ve'echad zeh, and the brisa then continues. This is Rabbi Yochanan's brisa. Both this one and this one, the Kohen Gadol for Yom Kippur and the Kohen for Parah Aduma. Mazan alav kol shiva mikol chata shayu sham. They sprinkled him with all the Parah Adumas that were there. V'im tamim miluim dam hachamayim. And if you want to ask the question, there was blood and there was water with the azah. Amart nichnasu mayim tachas dam. So we said already, meaning this is the source for that which we said already, that the mayim enters the picture as a replacement for the dam that was done during the days of miluim. V'omer, and the brisa continues. Kasher also b'yamazeh. The same way that Hashem, the same way that you did on this day, this is what Hashem commanded you to do, to atone alechem upon you, plural. And these are all of the limudim that we have learned. La'asais means para, chaper means Yom Kippur. That is the brisa. Effectively, we deconstructed it over the last two blat, and there you have the brisa packs it all in together. Says the Gemara, challenging this brisa. You wanted to say bezos means that it should be like this, like you did with the miluim. Bezos mi ba'ile legufe. You need the word bezos to teach the thing that it's teaching, which is how's Aaron going to come? But par ben bakar lechatas va'ila with a par and with an aisle. That's bezos yavar Aaron ala kodesh. That's what he needs in order to come into the kodesh. Amri says the Gemara, carbon lechude. If you're only talking about the carbon itself, bezos yavar Aaron ala kodesh. So lema kra bazeh. Then the Torah could have said bazeh. What does it mean bazeh? Meaning, both of the karbanos that Aaron brought are the par and the aisle are both zachar. They're not in a keva. So the word bezos is out of place here. Bezos means with this in the female singular. That doesn't make sense. It should have said bazeh with this, meaning with this karban, with these karbanos. These are masculine karbanos. Or even better, it would have said ba'ela with these. That would have been for sure better. Says the Gemara, my bezos. What does bezos mean? Shema min hatarti. You can learn two dinim from here. One din is the bezos with this avoda, with these korbanos. But by the fact that it doesn't have bezeh or ba'ela, you know that it's talking about something else. It's referring to something else, and that's the zos that we are talking about. Bezos meaning pointing you back to the days of Miluim. Ma va'omer. What do you mean? And the Brisa told us va'omer. Once we've learned bezos means the Miluim, so why do you need the additional proof? The additional proof that the Brisa had learned, which is va'omer kasher asa b'yamazet tziva Hashem la'aseh lechaper alechem. Why do you need that pasuk? The pasuk has already told you. Bezos tells you about the prisha of the Kohen Gadol. Why do you need the additional pasuk? Maybe you would say it was only the very first Yom Kippur that the Kohen Gadol requires 7 days of separation, just like by the Miluim. When Aaron and his sons were inaugurated as a Kahanim, that's where they needed days of Miluim. But henceforth, you don't need prisha for days of Miluim. You don't, every time a Kohen is inaugurated, he doesn't need 7 days of preparation. He needs an education, but he doesn't need to be sequestered away for 7 days. Maybe you'd say the same thing by Yom Kippur. The first Yom Kippur, Aaron needs 7 days of preparation, but thereafter he doesn't. Aval b'Yom Kippur and the Almaloi, maybe other Yom Kippurs he doesn't. You know what I mean? Alternatively, and that's why you need an additional pasuk. You know what I mean? Alternatively, Kohen Gadol come who the by Prisha. Only the very first Kohen Gadol would need Prisha. Aval Kohen Gadol ba'alma loy, but not an additional Kohen Gadol. Meaning, what's the difference between these two things? Maybe you would say, b'Yom Kippur da'alma. Maybe for any regular Yom Kippur, a Kohen Gadol does not need to be separated. Inami, or alternatively, Kohen Gadol kama hu by Prisha. It's only the very first Kohen Gadol that needs it. About Kohen Gadol da'alma, but future Kohen Gadols, not a din in Yom Kippur, but a din in the Kohen Gadol, would not be would not need this. Tashma come in here kasher asa. That the second pasuk that we said kasher asa tells you that any Kohen Gadol and any Yom Kippur requires separation. Meaning, don't say it's only for the first time a Kohen Gadol does it, or only for the very first Yom Kippur. But for both of them, any Kohen Gadol and any Yom Kippur needs 7 days, regardless of whether he's done it a million times, or if it was the first or the 7 billionth Yom Kippur in Jewish history. That is the Brisa of Rabbi Yochanan and the analysis of the Brisa of Rabbi Yochanan. And now the Gemara is going to introduce the Brisa of Reish Lakish. Tani Kevase de Reish Lakish. We now have a Brisa that is going to support the opinion of Reish Lakish. And let's just make sure that we copy the link here. That's important. Okay. The Brisa that supports Reish Lakish says as follows. Tani Kevase de Reish Lakish. Moshe went up in the cloud. And he was covered by the cloud. And he became transcendent, sanctified, elevated in this cloud. All of these things happened to him so that he could accept the Torah for the Jewish people in Kedusha. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Vayishkan kvod Hashem al Har Sinai. Pasuk says in Sefer Shmos that the honor of Hashem rested on Har Sinai. This all happened, that Hashem calls Moshe up to the mountain. That happens after the Aser Sadibros, meaning after Shavuos, which is a Amud Yomi jackpot coming up to Shavuos. This is our preparation with Lag BaOmer coming up tonight. This is our preparation for going up the mountain. All of this happened after the Aser Sadibros. That was at the beginning of the 40 days. Divrei Rabbi Yossi Aglili, this is the approach of Rabbi Yossi Aglili. That first came Aseres HaDibros, and we're going to get the dates in a couple of moments. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yossi Aglili. That first came Shavuos, Matan Torah. That was one day. And then Moshe Rabbeinu was called up thereafter. We'll get the dates in a moment. Thereafter, for 40 days to hear the rest of the Torah. That's the approach of Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Rabbi Akiva disagrees. Vayichin Kvod Hashem, that the honor of Hashem descends on Har Sinai, May Rosh Chodesh. That happens already from Rosh Chodesh, meaning from Rosh Chodesh Sivan. Vayichaseu Anan Lahar, and the turning over to Dalal Base, and the cloud covers the mountain. Vayikra El Moshe, and Hashem calls to Moshe. V'chol Yisrael Omdim, and the Jewish people are all standing by. V'loi ba kasav ela lachleik kavod Moshe. And the whole point of these psukim is to indicate the chashivas, the importance of Moshe. What does that mean? Is Hashem is speaking to Moshe. Moshe is the primary audience, meaning the emissary of the Jewish people in hearing Matan Torah, but Moshe is called up to the top of the mountain in order for the whole Jewish people to hear the Aseres HaDibros. He's already at the top. When Hashem announces the Aseres HaDibros, that this whole period of calling up, these 6 days of calling up beforehand, was all from Rosh Chodesh Sivan until Matan Torah. That is the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Nosson says, Loi ba kasav ela lemarik achil v'shtir sheb'meav, that the pasuk is telling you that these 6 days of informing Moshe Rabbeinu is to make sure that he has gotten rid of all of the food and drink that is in his stomach, in order to make him like one of the angels, so that he can get the Torah. Meaning, Reb Nosson holds the opinion of Rabbi Yossi Aglili that Moshe Rabbeinu was covered by the cloud, and that means that the mountain and Moshe Rabbeinu was covered by the cloud. But he doesn't hold that this is where you learn the din of separating out the Kohen Gadol. He learns that this is just a din by Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's the fourth opinion. And Rav Masih ben Charash is of the opinion that these psukim are coming to frighten Moshe Rabbeinu. So the Torah should be given with fear, with trembling, and with sweating. Right? That Moshe Rabbeinu should be schwitzing before he gets the Torah. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, "Es Hashem b'yira v'gila berada." Serve Hashem with fear and tremble with rejoice with trembling, with trepidation. Meaning, Rabbi Simon Charish also agrees with Rabbi Yossi Aglili that the cloud is covering Moshe Rabbeinu and he is separated from the people, but not necessarily that this is teaching anything about the Kohen Gadol. So then the Gemara on Dalal Beis goes through explaining how we learn Gil Berada here, and we'll just do those next two lines. Gil Berada. What does Gil Berada have to do with any of this? Amar Rav Ada bar Matna, says Rav Ada bar Matna, Amar Rav, the name of Rav, b'makim Gila Sham Tehei Rada. In the place of rejoicing, that's where you have to have trembling. Meaning, at the place that you are at the highest of heights of divine joy, that's where you have to be really careful. That's where you have to have trembling, and that's why Moshe Rabbeinu had to enter into this place with a sense of trembling, so that his joy would not end up messing anything up. And the Gemara then is going to continue with what the machlokes is between Rabbi Yossi Aglili and Rabbi Akiva. These are the two primary opinions about the date placement of the 6 days that Moshe Rabbeinu is called up to the mountain, and we are going to see from here how Reish Lakish gets his support for his approach and his opinion. All of this to be continued on Daf Dalad Amud Beis. Wishing everybody a freilich and like ba'omer. We should be zeicha to be able to kabel the Torah in Pnimius and in Nigla and Nistar on this beautiful Yantav coming up. Should be zeicha to all of Torah, the inside and the outside, for us and for our mishpacha and for all of Klal Yisrael. And I will see you guys, please God, in the next year.